Valemount.
Now call these Monday, November 2nd, 2020 special council meeting to order. First item on the agenda, 2.1, adoption of today's agenda. Councillor Blanchette, Councillor Pearson, shouldn't be any additions being a special meeting. All in favor? Carried. We have a presentation from our Director of Finance, Mrs. Lori McNee, under 4.1 for utility billing information. Mrs. McNee.
Thank you. I just need some technical help here.
Can you see that already?
Publish it. We were prepared for social distancing.
So this presentation is going to be a review of the utility rates for the 2021 year. This presentation has been presented quite a few times throughout the years, so it's a rerun with a few new slides in it. I'm hoping to make all these numbers make sense by the end. In 2015, FCS Group was contracted to conduct a water utility study. This study also fell into the sewer as well, so it's just particular to that. These are some of the considerations that they found and recommended. First of all, they evaluated and reviewed the customer's potential inequalities in cost distributions. And one of the findings that they had was that residences were paying whole more than commercial businesses. The recommendations was to decrease residents by 5, increase commercial by 9. Council decided to leave it as is, and we've carried forward since then. Validation of the vacant lot charges. Previously, there was a parcel tax charge for water and sewer operating costs. Due to legislation, that wasn't permissible, so we changed it over and everybody paid on the utility bill after that. There was a bit of controversy, so we had it confirmed that this was validated, that we could do this, and that was by FCS. Their rationale was that they had fire protection and capacity related costs. Industry guideline was 40 to 50% of those fixed rates that we could charge. The rate design for vacant properties was currently at 50%. After the FCS study, they recommended 40, and council proceeded with that recommendation. With all these changes, future infrastructure major upgrades and replacement fees have been incorporated into these rates. So I've spoken with the CIO, and we think that a review of these charges and how they are charged out should be conducted in 2021, whether it's utility bills or parcel taxes, and what the percentages of it. Through this study, FCS presented 3 scenarios that council could have approved. One was 5% for the first 4 years and 3% after that. The second was 9.5% for 9 years, 3% after that, remaining with the discount, or 8.5% for the first 9 years and 3% after with no discount. Council chose to go with scenario 2A, which is a 9.55 with the full discount. And we've actually done that. If you can see, 2017, 18, and 19, we did the 9.5% as recommended by FCS those years. Last year, we went down to 5%. And the previous years just shows the increases we had.
Hold on there, please.
I can give you a printout of this as well.
Thanks.
So because council did a 5% last year, I've calculated what it would be at 5% and 9.5%, what the differences is. And I've calculated it out as residential water and sewer and then commercial water and sewer. There are many different categories with water and sewer, but those are the 2 main ones, just so you can see the difference, what it would be. The biggest amount is the residential would be $40.47 for an increase of 5% versus 76.89. Currently in reserves, we have 686,977 in water, 479,904 in sewer. Part of these reserves are used every year for replacements for the water and sewer, such as UV lights, lift station control panels, water line repairs, etc. It's not all just operating. So throughout the years, this amount is continuously used. I'll just hold for Counselor.
Thanks.
Fine in.
Under COVID, heating repairman, and guess when he decided to arrive?
Oh,
They're all
no.
booked solid, right? Yeah. But
Not very far.
oh, good.
And we are by.
And Councillor McLean, just so you know, I've just reviewed the previous, this presentation. It was just a review of previous presentations of the water and sewer. So you've seen it all before, and I'll give you a hard copy of this presentation if you have any questions. I'm actually just going to go back one for Councillor McLean. FCS had recommended the 9.5% increase. However, councillors recommended the 5% last year. So I just want to show the difference for you going forward for this year. I was also just reviewing the reserves that we currently have. And although we have substantial reserves, a lot of this is still used every year for major upgrades that we need. We have the 2.8 million Northern Planning Capital Grant. Right now, this amount has been set aside for the Dogwood Lift Station. We have a grant in progress right now, but we've already been denied once. We're just waiting for that grant to see what happens with it. If it's denied, Dogwood is a priority, and this grant will be used for that. If it's not, if we receive the original grant, we'll come back to council to review this Northern Planning Grant for 2.8 and where it's going to go. We've also had some monies coming in from Trans Mountain for the water and sewer. As of the third quarterly budget I presented at the last council meeting, we had revenues of over 81,000 for water, 106 for sewer. These revenues are expected to continue throughout the duration of the Trans Mountain project. However, they will need to be reviewed once the infrastructure is in place for the water fill station and sewage dumping station that Trans Mountain has paid for. So we'll look at the revenues and expenses for that and determine rates coming there.
So the 81,000 is for 3 quarters
Yes, for the year.
and the sewer
Same.
for 3 quarters?
Yeah. I don't remember offhand when they started dumping sewage and receiving water, so July. And although those are revenues sitting there, please remember that we need to take out operating expenses such as chemicals, plant maintenance, hydro administration, etc. So this is a gross revenue, not net. With that as a reminder, through the FCS grant and through our asset management project, we have over 17 million in replacement value of water and 20 million replacement value in sewer that we need to accommodate for in the future years. Other considerations, I've taken some quotes from other municipalities. One was from Smithers, and last year they had approved a 10% hike, utility hike for 2021 and 2022. Canada Public Infrastructure at Risk new reports. They report that a significant amount of public infrastructure in Canada is aging and in poor condition. So it's not just Valemount, it's an ongoing crisis through all of the country. If anybody watched the news this morning, City of Vancouver is looking at how to make a budget trade-offs to avoid a 12% increase to property taxes this year. The staff was recommending transferring up to 57 million from the city's reserves in order to hold the tax hike to 5%. It's not something that anybody ever wants to do, is to take from the reserves because it's there for an emergency purpose and for future infrastructure. As a reminder, these are council strategic priorities from 2019 to 2022. Conduct a review of assets and develop a comprehensive asset management plan and build reserve funds. With this meeting, just to remind you that the budget or the bylaw has to be updated this year in order to do the utility bills in January. Approved rate increases will be incorporated into that budget or into that bylaw and brought to the November 10th council meeting. Currently, because council had approved a 9.5% increase, I will bring forward the bylaw at that unless council directs me otherwise. I also had a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet to show you. And I'm not sure if you can read this, because I cannot.
I can't.
Yeah. Okay. So this is an example from the sewer rates. I've done a spreadsheet to show in 2021, if we increase at 9.5%, 3% of that will be for inflation, 6.5% of that will be the 26,000, and that'll be dedicated to asset management. Every year, this amount is carried forward to the next year and the next year. So everything from here is carried forward. So it accumulates every year.
Share.
Sorry.
Technical difficulties. Sorry. So as I mentioned, 9.5% increase will give us $11,000 towards inflation, 26,000 towards asset management. This will get carried forward every single year, so it's accumulating every year. At the end of the 20 years, how FCS had determined this, the 9.5% increase, we're looking at having $3.8 million in reserves if we carry forward like that. If we go with a 5% increase, we're only going to be carrying forward $8,000. Doesn't seem like a big deal, but if you carry it forward for all those years going forward, it's a difference of $360,000 is what you'll be missing if you continue to lower that. And that's it for that presentation. If anyone has any questions.
Is there a motion please to receive the, I guess it's not a delegation, it's a presentation. So any questions for the presentation? What's the break-even point for utilities?
The break-even point?
Yeah.
I don't know.
As questions are asked, as the answer is given, I'll reiterate what the answer was for those at home.
So break even, does that mean just inflation?
Yes.
I believe that would be the 3% that FCS has. Anything over that goes towards asset management. That
So-
does not include any major upgrades throughout the years.
That question stems from, we have 81K coming in plus another 1.25 fold for the fourth quarter and 106K for sewage as a revenue generator. What does that look like when held against our potential increase or break-even point?
We don't know what the expenses are yet for that.
Okay.
So,
Is there an educated guess of what those increases in expenses versus revenue coming in?
I'm going to say 75%.
So 25% expenses?
At least.
Quick question.
Yeah, you go ahead, Councillor.
Just curious, the 2.8 million infrastructure grant, is that money we've already received sitting in the bank? It's not spent and then received?
Correct.
So it's accruing interest or the revenue there?
Yeah, it was mandatory to be put into an investment. And it's on reserve fund.
What's it generating for interest?
I believe it was under 4,000 a month. I will double check that number.
You said the fees and charges bylaw needs to be updated by the end of this year,
Correct.
and then next year we have to do a thorough review of the fees and charges. Shouldn't we do it the other way around? Do our review and then change the bylaw?
The bylaw still needs to be implemented for the 2021 utility rates.
Okay.
At minimum, a 3% increase should be incurred just
just to cover the basics, though. That's not doing anything, putting anything in reserves or anything, okay. But we're on the slot for 9.5%, right? That's what we're slotted into for the next however many
That's what
years.
council approved for the SES study, and I'm going to change it. As I did last year.
Okay, well then what's the 5%? Then I'm confused.
It's what we approved last year. Instead of the 9.5, we
For
approved
this
5.
year.
Yes.
She had 9.5% on the thing for 2021.
That is what FCS suggested. And I
Okay,
just wanted to show the comparison of 5% to 9.5% because that's what you approved last year.
okay,
Just so you can see the difference on the utility bills.
okay.
So I have 175,000 and change for profit, based on the revenues and expenses from Trans Mountain. Is it possible to correlate that revenue into a 3% increase and then have that profit put into reserves?
It can be put into reserves, but remember, you want to accumulate every single year.
I know it's not going to compound,
Yeah.
but COVID is compounding right now.
Exactly.
And I think it's the responsibility of council to be thinking 25 years down the road. But if folks aren't able to meet those demands, doesn't matter what state our infrastructure is going to be in.
And FCS study showed 9 years at 9.5%. If council doesn't do that every year,
Yeah.
we can just extend that increase.
What's the number you had? You said,
What's that?
what was the number that you had for,
Our annual income?
Yeah.
Well, annual profit would be 175,000. Based on what we got through 3 quarters. Any other questions for presenter? Yeah, you'll be coming back to council on Tuesday? Okay, and you're not looking for any recommendations from this committee, from this special council meeting?
If council wants to provide one, I would change the bylaw to do that.
It's council's wish. You want to sit on it for a couple of days, mull it over,
Mhm.
and then if council decides on Tuesday to stay with the 9.5% or change it, that'll be up to council. Or change it now.
I would prefer to think and then do it on Tuesday for myself.
No, I agree.
We don't need a motion to defer. There is no recommendation here, so.
If council has any questions before I get responsive, please just email or call.
Our MOU with Trans Mountain, what's the expiry? For the dumpage and the potable water
Duration of their project.
So we can assume financially that 175,000 will be coming in annually for the next 2 years.
That'd be safe.
I think we'll have to review once the infrastructure is in place.
Okay. Well, see you on Tuesday. If anybody has any questions for the Director of Finance from now until then, maybe if you could send that out electronically, the presentation.
Yes, absolutely.
Paper copies for whoever requires it. I wouldn't mind an electronic copy of that spreadsheet.
Okay.
So I can do some crunching.
I'll also confirm the interest on the.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I just ask for adjournment. Councilor Pearson. Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.